Andrew Tate.
Hello.
You've agreed to do an interview with the BBC today.
Yep.
The material is going to be published on television, on radio, online.
Perfect.
We are doing an interview with you because you're facing some very serious allegations.
Correct.
Rape, human trafficking.
Yep.
And also because there's a great deal of concern about the things you say and the impact that they have on young people, on women.
I don't think the concern's about the things I say. I think the concern is for the level of influence I have and the reach I have. I would argue that a lot of the things that are already out there inside of the legacy media and the matrix as a whole are far more damaging than the things I say.
It's the concern about the influence you have being a harmful influence, but let's start with the allegations.
Not necessarily a harmful influence. The fact that I'm massively influential over the youth, and I understand that, but it's my influence as a whole which people are afraid of, not necessarily the things I say.
Let's start with the allegations. Have you raped anybody?
Absolutely not.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Absolutely not.
Exploited any women for money?
Absolutely not.
But you have admitted using emotional manipulation to get women to work in the webcam industry for you.
No. Firstly, let's start at the beginning. I'm facing charges. The first one you mentioned, the rape one's already been thrown out by a judge because there's no evidence of it. Secondly, it's very difficult for me to sit here and have a very frank and honest conversation with you while we're in the territory of Romania about a legal case that's going on within Romania. I have to protect myself. I've agreed to do an interview with you, and I want to be as honest with you as possible, but I can't incriminate myself in any way, and I have to be very careful with what I talk about.
There are no charges yet.
Correct, there are no charges.
There are
no charges, and I've agreed to speak to you, but I have to be as honest and frank as I can while also protecting myself and following my legal counsel.
So let's talk about what you've said yourself then. You have said on the website, for your original website for the Hustlers University, that you emotionally manipulated women to fall in love with you so that you could get them working in the sex industry for your financial gain.
As I said, I have to be very careful with what I say, but let's put it this way. No women are coming out against me and accusing me of doing it.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. Who?
There's testimony from the current investigation.
The current investigation, which I cannot discuss, which I know intimately and you don't, I can tell you right now that the women who are in this case file, there are 2 American women who have been caught already admitting they're lying, and then nobody else is accusing me of anything.
To begin with, it's very common in cases like this that the alleged victims do not always see themselves as victims.
Well, that's very interesting. It's actually extremely interesting because if I was a matrix-controlled organization and my goal was to slander somebody and try and destroy their name, you're telling me that they've chosen a crime which, 1, is heinous, of course, because it damages the person's credibility, and 2, you're saying that even if everyone else involved, if you have 5 people and everyone's sitting there saying, no, nobody's hurt anybody, we like Andrew, we've all worked together, we're friends, etc.
That's not what everybody's saying.
No.
Let me read you some of the testimony from the current investigation.
Can I finish this?
One of the witnesses said...
Can I finish this?
You're not answering the question I've asked you. You're not answering the question I've asked you.
I am answering the question.
Let me read you the testimony of one of the witnesses.
You're saying the people who are involved in this, even if they say they're not victims, that they're still going to try and attack me and pretend they're victims.
They are treated as victims by the case that's ongoing. And not all of them are saying that. One of the witnesses says...
We can't go into the case. The case is open and active.
Well, let's just be clear that not all of the witnesses in the case are behaving in the way you describe. And even those that are, it doesn't bar them from being treated as victims by the prosecution, by the case.
We have an open criminal investigation. I am absolutely not really sure I'll be found innocent. I know the case better than you. I know it intimately and you don't. I have seen all the criminal files and the evidence against me and you haven't. I know the truth of what happened and you don't. And I'm telling you absolutely not really, I've never hurt anybody, that the case that's been put against me is completely and utterly fabricated. And I'm never going to be found guilty of anything. And it's very difficult for me to answer your in-depth questions because we're sitting here inside of the territory of Romania. I'm beholden to the Romanian legal system. And I'm not going to incriminate myself because you're trying to prod me. You are wrong, and we're going to have to accept that for now and talk about something else.
Let me read you then what you have said about what you have done.
Sure.
You have said, my job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, get her to fall in love with me to the point where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so we could become rich together.
I don't think that's what I personally said. I think that's
exactly what
no,
you said.
That's no, I've never said that. That's something that you found on the internet. Doesn't mean I've said it. And again, once again, if any female on the planet has a problem with me, I strongly recommend her to go to the police and try and pursue me for criminal charges. It's actually very interesting that me, one of the most famous people in the world, who's been vilified by the legacy media and places all over the internet, while everyone has attacked me from every single angle, while federal agencies from multiple countries have called over 2,000 women who know me, we stand here with 0 new accusations since my arrest. 0. If you took any famous person, any man of substantial wealth, and you called 2,000 women who knew him, he'd find an ex-girlfriend is upset, somebody who wants money who's upset. They called 2,000 people who knew me and could not find a single woman to make a new complaint. The only complaints they have against me are the initial complaints, which we can prove are lies, and that's where it stands. So I'm not going to sit here and allow you to pretend that I'm some kind of evil predator, when actually I'd argue the fact that people who've been investigated to the level I've been investigated to, if you were to take the average man on the street and investigate his entire life for 14 months, call everyone who's ever known him, and vilify him in the media, and encourage people to come forward for money, and you try to contact every ex-girlfriend that's ever had.
Would come forward and accuse those people of rape and accuse those
I
people
think that
of
you would have a lot more.
manipulation?
I think you would have a lot more flack than I've got. I'm actually such a nice person that I've never had anyone
has
come
spoken
at.
to somebody since your arrest who says exactly those things. That with you, it's all manipulation. There's an ulterior.
Is this
motive
Sophie?
to everything.
Is this Sophie? Oh, it's Sophie. The fake name, no face, the story that was
wanting
invented.
to please him and wanting him to be happy, that I was just kind of, yeah, okay, do whatever you want.
And what has she
That's
accused? Has she accused me of a crime? This imaginary Sophie?
She's making the point that there is
Has she accused me of a crime?
emotional or psychological manipulation.
I've asked you a question, and I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you a question.
Correct, but you're not the boss here, because I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you the question.
Correctly, and I'm telling you.
You get to decide the answers.
No, we're equal here. I've allowed you into my house. You don't come here with a position of authority. I'm doing you the favor as legacy media, giving you relevance by speaking to you. And I'm telling you now, this Sophie, which the BBC has invented, which there's no face of, nobody knows who she is.
The BBC did not invent.
Of course not. And because you never invent anything. And she's not filed criminal charges against me. What are we talking about here? What is she saying?
Talking about emotional manipulation into the sex industry for your financial gain.
Absolute garbage. She has not filed criminal. This person, if they exist, has not filed criminal charges against me. I welcome anybody who believes I've harmed them, male or female, any point in the past, to file criminal charges against me, and I will fight them. I know who I am, and I know what I've done, and I know the truth, and I know that I'll be found innocent of this attack. The reason I'm being attacked is because of my massive influence, not because I've ever hurt anybody. And for you to sit here and say that everybody around you is saying you're innocent, but that doesn't matter because the state will say they're victims, and they're just going to grab everybody you know and call everybody victims, even if they say they're not, and try and put you in jail. You are describing a matrix attack. You're not describing human trafficking.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human trafficking.
We will see what women go. We will see what women go to court at the end of this trial. We'll see which women go to court.
Can I finish, please?
We'll see which women go to court.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human
trafficking. Sophie hasn't gone to court. Sophie doesn't exist.
And I'm describing women who have spoken to the BBC at length.
Sophie doesn't exist.
And other media organisations about what they say is emotional manipulation and coercion. And I'm quoting back to you your own words where you describe
they're not my words.
Coercion.
They're words you found. They're words you found on the internet, and Sophie doesn't exist.
On your
so let's move on
website,
to the next subject.
In your voice.
Move on to the next subject.
No, I think I'll stick on this one for a minute. So there's other places in that same website where you say you get girls to fall in love with you, and they do it because they love you, because they want to do what you say. Convincing women to take part in some kind of business arrangement doesn't work long term because they're emotional. You've got to get them to fall in love with you. That's coercion, that's emotional manipulation, that's abuse.
What you've found are clips from the internet, some text from the internet, and you're going to sit here and tell me that that's the reason I should be
your website, your words.
It's not my website.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Check my website. Next.
It's the website you've taken down, and I wonder why those comments have been taken down.
No website's been taken down. My website is the same. It's been the same for a very long time.
The comments on this website, on the original website, have been taken down, and I wonder why.
You are accusing me, I'm guessing, what you're trying to say is you're accusing me, and you're trying to say that I'm guilty of the things I'm accused of, and I'm emotionally manipulating people.
I'm saying that you have said you emotionally manipulated people here for your own financial gain.
No, absolutely not.
And I'm asking you about that.
Absolutely not is the answer. I look forward to the end of this trial. I look forward to clearing my name. I look forward to the BBC and the legacy media having to say not guilty and having to tell the truth. As I've said before, the only other person who's been found, despite absolute rigorous, destructive levels of investigation and prodding into my life, is this imaginary Sophie by the BBC who doesn't exist. And if you were to find any single other man on earth and try and analyze his life forensically to the level they've done mine, you would find genuine damage to people. I don't hurt people.
It's not just
Thousands of women have come out in my
allegations,
defense. Thousands of women have come out in my defense, and you've not mentioned that. Thousands of women come out in my defense.
Because the problem is when women accuse you of serious crimes
Okay,
and emotional
but
manipulation.
let's agree that
that's
thousands
the
of women.
problem.
Let's agree that
It's
thousands.
not the problem that some people say you haven't done it. It's a problem that some people say you have.
Thousands of women come out in my defense, and as we stand right now, we have an open criminal investigation. The people who are involved in the criminal investigation are saying that we're not victims of anything. Andrew's fine, he's never hurt us. You're saying, no, I have the opposite to that. I have to counter that. I have someone called Sophie with no face, a fake name, who we've invented, and she's not accusing you of anything criminal. So I don't see the whole point you're trying to make
You say you
here.
manipulate women, they say you manipulate women. Why wouldn't people think you do?
I'm not here. Do you think I'm manipulating you?
I'm asking you about the testimony you've given on your website and the testimony
No,
women have given
you've
about
printed
you.
something off that you found on Reddit, and you're going to sit here and say that that makes me a bad person. And I'm saying that you should know better as a journalist and do some proper journalism. Let's investigate the fact that
I
thousands.
think you should answer my questions
I am.
properly.
I already have, and we should move on. She's just trying to start an argument.
It's not only about the criminal allegations. It's a much bigger issue. You've got children's organisations in the UK, you've got rape organisations in the UK, you've got the police naming you by name as someone who has a harmful influence on children and on women in the UK and elsewhere because of the things you say, because of the way you present gender relations, the way you say men should treat women.
That's very upsetting. And the reason that's very upsetting is because I know that's not true. I'm genuinely a good person. I believe my impact on the world is positive. In fact, if you were to read the comment section of nearly any video I post, especially by the legacy media, 95% of the population agree with me. Most people know that the things I say are positive. Legacy media as a whole has lost all its credibility in the last 3 to 4 years. Nobody believes it. And it's a shame, it's a massive shame that the BBC come here and try and push and purport this idea that I'm a dangerous person.
I'm putting my own words to you.
I'm anti-drugs. I've never pushed drugs or any. I'm anti-drugs. I'm anti-violence. The UK is facing a knife crime epidemic, and they're going to sit here and say that I'm the most dangerous man in the UK.
You have said you're the most dangerous man in the world.
I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world.
You've also said that a woman's intimate parts belong to her male partner. I'm glad you find that funny.
I find it funny that you're sitting here saying that I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world, and you believe that's. When did I say that?
I'm asking if you believe it.
No, you said you're the most dangerous man in the world. Is that some kind of proof that I'm dangerous? Am I Dr. Evil now? I'm telling you that it's very upsetting that you're going to sit here and that certain organizations in the world are going to try and pretend that I'm the biggest force of evil on earth when I'm genuinely a force for good.
You have said.
I'm genuinely a force for
Not
good.
what I've said.
And the reason they're doing this is because of the massive influence I have over the youth, and they don't like that I'm telling the youth to think outside of the matrix and ignore things like the BBC, which come here with loaded questions and false narratives and try and paint innocent people as guilty.
You've said women's intimate parts belong to their male partner.
I said that if a woman marries a man, she takes his last name and traditionally the man gives her away. I've been pushing traditional religious beliefs, because I'm a religious man, and traditional beliefs in regards to marriage, which everybody accepted 10 to 15 years ago.
So
that's not a crazy conspiracy theory. If you're going to sit here and say that me believing a woman should take a man's last name in marriage makes me the most dangerous man in the world, then you're just going to lose even more credibility than the BBC's already lost in the last 4 to 5 years. If that's your point, if that's your narrative you want to push,
say that
good
men
luck.
should be able to sleep with a lot of women outside marriage. That doesn't sound very religious or very conservative.
That's not what I said they should be able to. I said a lot of high-value men, a lot of rich men do it. And then we discussed at length on podcasts why rich men do it. And we also discussed why women decide to be unfaithful. It's not a gendered argument. We discussed unfaithfulness as a whole. What are the reasons and motivations for men, and what are the reasons and motivations for women? Because you have no time to actually, watch my content, because you have no time to actually watch my content at length and understand what I'm saying, you just come here with a small snippet which has been provided to you on a piece of paper.
Saying it 3 times doesn't make it true.
No, completely. You don't have a clue what I say or what I talk about. You never watch my content. You have small pieces of paper, small clips on a piece of paper, and you're trying to pretend I've said evil things. And then you're going to say I'm the most dangerous man in the world, which is truly laughable.
You said that, not me.
Okay. Do you believe I'm the most dangerous man in the world, Lucy?
I'm not answering your questions.
Well, then we need to change the dynamic of this interview because, and I'll make this clear, I allowed you into my home. I'm doing you a favor, giving you the first interview I'm giving to the public. You don't come here with a position of authority. You're not the police. I don't respect the BBC. I don't know you. You do not come here with a position of authority over me. We are equals. We are people. We're citizens of the world, and we sit here as equals. And I see you as my equal, and if you ask me questions, I can ask you questions back.